morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of the Entrepreneurship Spotlight podcast. I am joined today by my friend, fellow entrepreneur, overall good guy, Marty Hofmann. Marty, thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
You bet. So Marty is a guy, I know a lot of people have probably seen Marty around in the coffee shops or around town. He's been around the community for quite some time, has a wonderful, beautiful family. In a future episode, I'll actually have the opportunity to talk to one of his children that's an entrepreneur herself. Keziah Montgomery owns a K-Beth Portraits and also does some other stuff with social media and in the real estate business. But they have a whole clan full of entrepreneurs over at your house. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, trying to raise them up.
So walk through that a little bit. So your journey's an interesting one to me. I met you for the first time when you were working for somebody else.
Yep.
But you've always been an entrepreneur. Would you share a little bit about that journey?
So I grew up in Iowa. My dad, I've always taught there was three types of men. There's Mr. Command Man, there's Mr. Steady, and there's Mr. Visionary. My dad was Mr. Visionary, always had vision for things, always wanted to create different opportunities. Grew up shearing sheep with my dad. He farmed. That turned into shearing sheep because farming crisis of the 80s. It was a way to put bread and butter on the table.
Right.
I have 9 siblings, so Dad had to shear a lot.
That's a lot of sheep.
But through shearing, we learned hard work. It wasn't something we could negotiate with Dad about. I remember trying when I was 15. I said, Dad, I don't want to do it. And he said, Marty, until you do 1,000 head, I don't want to hear it. So it was always this philosophy in our house. You worked hard.
Yep.
Hoffmans weren't quitters.
Yep.
That was another one. And I grew up shearing sheep with my dad. He had that spirit, the entrepreneur spirit. He did a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And got married, moved to Montana. I was a youth pastor there for 8 years. And then we moved back here. I did a normal job again. And then I got out, broke free of the W-2 and started the entrepreneurship.
We call it the bondage of I used to have a business card. And as I'm thinking about this, I need to bring this back. At the bottom, the tagline was setting captives free. And what was cool about it is you would get questions like, okay, are you a counselor? Are you all these different things, but it would lead to a conversation about starting your own business. So you've done the W-2 thing. You've been an entrepreneur, a lowly paid entrepreneur, because when you're sharing all those sheep for your pops, right?
Yeah.
You come here, you go back to the W-2, and then you get set free. And was that when you stepped into the real estate business?
So I got into real estate. I've bought a duplex here in town in 2002 and fixed it all up myself. Didn't really know about the book Who Not How.
Yeah.
But
great book.
Kind of did things myself. And that's the thing about entrepreneurs is often they're very independent.
Yep.
To their demise.
There's other words you could substitute for independent. When it's to their demise.
Well, yeah. I mean, you just think you have to do everything.
Correct.
And you don't realize that there's lots of people that want to work for you, who could
help you,
who could do a better job.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I bought a duplex, fixed it up, and really I did for the same reason we still are investing today, and that was financial freedom.
Yeah.
It was knowing that Social Security maybe isn't going to be here. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't saved at that point for anything, but I understood the concept that you could have a rental property and somebody could pay you to live there and the values would go up in that. I mean, it's just historic. It always has, even if we have a down year. And rents would go up. And when I was 60 years old, I could have some residual income.
We call those annuities, right? Every month there's distributions are going to come just like an annuity for each house that you have. So one of the other things we were talking about before coming on the air is just how difficult it can be to be an entrepreneur. I think everybody sees the fun stuff. They see the end result where somebody that's put in 20, 30 years, how they're living currently or and people look at the wrong things too, in my opinion, Marty. They look at what kind of house do you live in or what kind of car do you drive. And to me, that has no reflection on anybody's success or failure, right? Or what they've accomplished. But talk a little bit about that from your perspective, entrepreneurship, and just why do you think there doesn't seem to be as many entrepreneurs as there was before?
I think one reason there's not as many, well, honestly, I think is we're not being taught that.
Yeah.
Whether it's in schools or by our parents, we're not being taught that by our circle of influence. And we're also not taught to do hard things. And so we default to what's easy. And it's just our human nature to do what's easy.
Yeah.
But because we're not being influenced to do that, there's less entrepreneurs. We have these big dreams of the entrepreneur who has tons of time on his hands and gets to travel the world. And I do believe there's opportunity for that as we live in the information age. But I don't think that the vision of entrepreneurship is being taught.
Yeah.
Simply, it's not just being taught because it's hard. And yes, there are huge rewards when done successfully, but it is sometimes a lonely, hard journey that you have to do. And sometimes you don't always have your spouse's support. Right. I'm blessed I do, but some spouses would rather their significant other just get a paycheck every week and not have to worry.
Well, and I think what's interesting, you brought up the whole, and you're right. I think, you can't have great success and all this freedom. I think from my experience and from working with a lot of entrepreneurs and interviewing a lot of entrepreneurs and just talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, even though they usually don't. Even when they get there where they could do those things, because they're wired differently. Mm-hmm. What makes them happy, what makes them feel fulfilled is the building. It's all the good stuff that goes in and the fun stuff. And what's ironic is the fun stuff is the hard stuff in entrepreneurship, I believe. But if you're wired that way, you don't ever not want to be doing that. You and I've talked about this. I have zero desire ever to retire completely. I don't ever want to not have something going on because the idea of having nothing to go on scares the bejesus out of me. I mean, I can't even fathom the idea of not having something I'm working on or trying to build or something to do. I'm not wired that way. And I think most entrepreneurs are. So, well, give me one or two, walk me through Marty's top 3 things an entrepreneur must have to get from inception to year 3 in a business.
Well, you're going to have grit. You're going to have to handle hard better. You're going to be committed. And maybe that's kind of all one where you've got a good idea and you're going to see it through regardless. You're fully committed. So I would say that would be commitment. Okay. And the other one I think would be important would be tenacity or hard work, especially those early years. It's probably not going to be a 4-hour work week. The
book's not true.
It might be more like 120-hour work week, where you're learning every facet of the business and all the ins and outs so that you can grow and pass that off. So you're going to have commitment, hard work. And the other thing I would say is probably some kind of community, or maybe it's a coach or some kind of network of people that are going to encourage you.
Yeah.
I think that's real easy today, probably a lot easier today than it was 20 years ago because we do have social media. You have YouTube, you've got all these opportunities to connect with people worldwide that we didn't have 20 years ago.
Right.
So to that note, it does make it easier as far as that is. But that your circle of influence to some extent is easier now than it was.
I think it's easier. I think you got to be more careful today, because it used to be that your center of influence typically was based on people you truly knew.
Yeah.
You had really had the opportunity, and that took longer, but you really got to know who they were. And now everybody's an expert, everybody's a pro, everybody's this, everybody's that. And we all know, just common sense says that's not true.
Yeah.
But so you've got to be careful who you, and I would encourage people to when you're looking for that network of people or that center, those centers of influence in your life, to make sure everybody doesn't look like you, to get people that are outside of your area that you're working in, because great power comes from those people that you just can see things through a lens without anything bought into it or tied to it. And I think that's really important. You can't, we were on a Zoom call this morning, Marty, with one of our clients out of Kansas City, and we had done an assessment with them, and all of them are the exact same people. Well, that's good and that's dangerous all at the same time. It's good because they all get along really well. It's bad because this type of personality that they just want to sit around and enjoy each other's company, and they never get anything done. I mean, you got to have, takes all types, right?
Yeah.
Takes all types. So, well, I'm going to give you an opportunity. Anything you want to share as we wrap this up today, and I'd love to have you come back on, because I think one thing about Marty, and he doesn't know I'm going to say this, didn't know I was going to say this, but I really respect Marty for a lot of reasons. But one of the things I respect the most about Marty is he started a book club, I believe, with your children and some of their friends. Is that correct?
It started just with my kids.
Yep.
And then it led to my kids saying, hey, so-and-so needs this book.
Yep.
And yeah, it's getting a little bit bigger now.
And Marty's done that with me, even though I'm a little older than his kids. But you've been very kind. You've sent me texts and say, hey, have you checked this book out? Have you looked at that book? And I think it's important. I think Marty truly invests in other people. Maybe that's the youth pastor in you. I like to think it's probably your parents is where that started. But Marty understands the importance in investing in other people where there's no personal financial gain for him, but just the giving back, the mentoring, the helping. And I really respect that. But I'm going to give you the final thoughts on entrepreneurship. It's awful easy to wrap up this quick, right? Easy topic.
Final thoughts.
Yeah.
It's a journey. We need more entrepreneurs out there today.
Yes.
We need people who are willing to buck the system and use their minds to create other opportunities for other people. And I believe there's no excuse not to. We live in the information age. You can learn anything you want on YouTube, and other places. But we have tremendous opportunity. It's not necessarily easy, but it's a lot easier than the fears in you are probably communicating. So we're ultimately going to default to the easy, but if you can learn to embrace the hard, then you'll actually enjoy the journey. Maybe on a closing note, I started running last year. I hated running, and my brother encouraged me to do it. And I could hardly run at all, but it's gotten easier and easier, and it's progressive. It's just like the entrepreneurship. It's very progressive. The more you do it, the more time you put in, the easier it gets. And, now my wife and I watched the movie the other day of 100-mile run. I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah, but I got to tell everybody this. Marty's already ran a marathon, which blows me away. It really does. It's a heck of an accomplishment. What Dave Evans, my business partner in one of our companies, Exxon, what we talk about, we're both prior military guys, both worked in career fields in the military that did not involve a desk. But we always said, embrace the suck, right?
Yeah.
When you talk about doing what's hard, you got to embrace the suck. You just do. It's an old saying. It's been said for years and years and years in the military. And that's doing those hard things. So, well, Marty, I really appreciate you giving us some of your time today. I hope to have you back again, because I'd like to continue to talk to you about it. You have a lot to offer people You really do. You have
you.
a lot to share. I'd love to have you come back again on Entrepreneur Spotlight and share some more.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.